Chapter 5. Tarot. But let's go back to my job at the Dutch company. I suffered there for 5 months. I still don't know how or why, but I lasted for that long, and then I decided to take a vacation and relax. By the time I left the company, where our manager, the crazy Polish woman Natalia, was shouting, "Pause," I had become quite interested in tarot. Yes, tarot cards. If someone had told me that this would happen, I would have been very surprised. The tarot turned out to be for me personally the discovery of life. It contains so much, both the past and the future. The present and the future. It showed people's lives, their destinies, their problems, and situations. It opened the door to the world of biographies and situations of strangers, where no one can look without admission. How and why did I start doing it? It was in Belgium. I came to visit Dmitry, whom I was looking for in Mariupol. He also settled in Europe after leaving Ukraine. I have already described how I came to his home in Mariupol and saw the high-rise building where he lived, partially burned down after the shelling. It was a terrible and sad sight, and I will never forget it. I liked Belgium as a country, and I've visited it many times. It looked cute, like in a picture, all neat and tidy. At the time, Dima was staying with a Belgian man who kindly allowed him and his wife to stay in his home. When I first visited Dima, a girl named Nadia, an astrologer, was staying with them. In my opinion, Nadia is an exceptional astrologer. I don't know how she's doing now, but she seemed to be doing well back then. She agreed to work with me. I prepared questions for our communication, and we got started. First, we went through all my planets and houses. Who is in the subject, he will understand, and then went already on each item. Nadia also used the Weight Tarot deck in the session. She told me about some fiery woman who would soon appear in my life. As it turns out later, in fact, after a while, I will meet a fire-breathing woman, but I will tell you about her later. At the meeting, Nadia answered the questions that interested me at the time: where to live, what to do, and other questions. And among other things, she explained to me what my life's purpose is. No, not in tarot, but as a master, I can be a good mentor and a teacher. I just need to find my path as a helper. When I asked, "What is my path?" she did not answer, saying that I should find it myself. And she suggested that I try tarot as a starting point. So I decided to do so. After meeting with her, I bought a deck of Waite-Smith tarot cards and began to study. Fortunately, I had someone who could teach me. After a few months, I started practicing. At first, I offered my friends and acquaintances free card readings, and then I started using specialized websites to expand my client base. As I continued practicing, it became more interesting and exciting. I also started using different cards to love more, for their accuracy and insight, for their diversity and foresight. Tarot sometimes surprised me. I noticed that the cards know the answers to many questions, but I don't know where tarot gets this information from. However, reading them was a pleasure, and solving the riddles was an excellent exercise for my intellect and intuition. With each reading, the tarot drew me deeper into its world. I started studying tarot then with lectures by Pan Roman, an excellent professional, a wonderful lecturer and a great teacher. When I started, tarot immediately made it clear to me that this system is not simple, but multi-layered and multifaceted. By sending out newsletters to my friends and acquaintances, I hoped that many of them would agree to participate in my reading practice. And so it turned out. But not everyone liked it, and some reacted aggressively to the proposal. There was a girl who said that she was a hereditary healer and could read cards perfectly well, so she didn't need my readings. There were acquaintances who were surprised by my transformation, but they kindly agreed to participate in the tarot readings, for which I am sincerely grateful. Of course, the first readings involved examining the meanings of the cards, their interpretations, and finding the significance of the combinations. I began doing readings on people after completing the course with Pan Roman. Despite his good level of training, I still forgot some of the information, as any knowledge requires regular practice and reinforcement. Without these components, nothing is remembered or developed. The tarot course lasted 3 months, and during that time I continued to work at the hated fruit and vegetable factory alongside Bulgarians, Turks, Poles, and Ukrainians. I used to get up early, at 4 a.m., and we would leave around 5. In the evening, after work, I returned to my location and studied again. Thankfully, circumstances in those days allowed me to acquire knowledge calmly and quietly. Then I decided to quit my job and take a break, because by that time I had already planned a trip to Latin America, namely to Brazil. For some reason, I've always loved Latin America and dreamed of being there for many years. After I quit, I remember how relieved I was to leave my job. And with what joy. Wading through this, I couldn't understand why some people stay in these jobs for so long without any good reason. At the company, I met people who knew 4 to 6 languages, were very gifted, but at the same time remained in the position of movers for years. Some Bulgarians worked to buy a house, just like the Turks, while others, like me, didn't know where to go in life, so they went to a heavy factory to keep themselves busy with something. It was draining all my energy. But what I'm grateful for is meeting people like Anna from Ukraine, who became like an aunt to me. She was a well-mannered, reserved, and polite woman, and she was always pleasant and kind. I will never forget her. Anya, if you're reading this, I wish you happiness and an easier life. You deserve it. However, I will return to the tarot. I practiced it for several months in Holland, and later I started studying astrology, which I didn't like. It was boring. By that time, I was going to fly to Brazil to see this country in person, because, in addition to the intuitive desire to visit this distant land, astrologer Nadezhda told me that Brazil is favorable for me. So I bought tickets for 3 weeks, and I flew out on the day I was supposed to. It was summer, in June. At the refugee location where I was residing at the time, I was warned that it was dangerous because I could lose my place if I was absent for more than 3 weeks without being marked on the general list of residents, as the rules require you to check in every week, otherwise you could be evicted. Well, that's good, I thought, and I did as they told me. Of course, I knew that I was risking losing such a good location, but the adventurism haunted me, pushing me to new experiences. And I embarked on this 3-week journey, taking with me some things, including my tarot. That's how my Brazilian experience began.